When you hear the word psychology, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it a therapist's couch? Maybe someone analyzing your dreams? Well, we're about to peel back all those pop culture layers to get to the heart of what psychology really is. Let's dive in. All right, so let's just get one thing straight right off the bat. Psychologists can't read your mind, and nope, they are not human lie detectors. The reality of what they do is actually way more scientific and honestly much more fascinating than any magic trick. So to really get what psychology is all about, we've got to start by busting some of the biggest myths that are out there. And get ready, because you've probably heard and maybe even believe a few of these yourself. Okay, so you've heard these, right? That opposites attract? Well, research actually shows we tend to prefer people who are similar to us. That lie detector tests are accurate? Not even close. How about the idea that we only use 10% of our brain? Total myth. We use pretty much all of it. And that old advice to stick with your first instinct on a test? Yeah, it's actually often better to change your answer. You see, these myths are everywhere, which is exactly why a scientific approach is so critical to cut through all the noise. Okay, so if we clear all that stuff out of the way, what are we left with? What is psychology, really? Let's get to the actual definition. And here it is, the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Now, those first couple of words, scientific study, that is the absolute key. This isn't just philosophy or good guesses. It's a science dedicated to figuring out why we do the things we do and think the way we think. That definition really has two big parts. First, you've got behavior, the overt stuff that we can all see, like someone laughing or crying. But then you have mental processes, and that's the hidden internal world of our thoughts, our feelings, and our memories. Psychology is the study of both, and maybe more importantly, how the two are all connected. And this science has a really clear four-step mission, a game plan, if you will. It all starts with simply describing a behavior. From there, the goal is to understand what's causing it. Once you understand it, you can work to predict it. And the final step, a lot of the time, is to use that knowledge to control or influence behavior, usually to help improve people's lives. It's a really powerful, methodical process. But just because it's a science, that doesn't mean all the answers are simple. Not at all. Psychology is actually built on a foundation of some of the oldest and most profound questions about what it even means to be human. Let's look at a couple of the really big ones. Yeah, this image of the man in the maze is kind of the perfect symbol for this. At its heart, psychology is a journey into the incredibly complex, winding maze of the human condition, always trying to find the path to understanding who we are. And this is the all-time classic, nature versus nurture. Are we shaped by our genes, our biology, as the ancient Greek philosopher Plato argued, or are we products of our experience, our environment, like his student Aristotle believed? This debate is still alive and well today, though most psychologists will tell you the real answer is a super complex dance between the two. And then there's this puzzle. Are your thoughts and your consciousness totally separate from your physical brain, like Descartes suggested? Or are the mind and body one and the same, as Locke argued with his idea of the blank slate? This very question really helped pave the way for modern neuroscience. So, how did we get from these ancient philosophical debates all the way to modern brain scans? Let's take a quick trip through time to see how psychology became the science it is today. Our story really kicks off in Germany back in 1879. This man, Wilhelm Wundt, established the very first laboratory that was dedicated only to psychological research. He used a method called introspection, basically asking people to carefully describe their own conscious thoughts. And that was the first major step in making the study of the mind an actual experimental science. After Wundt's lab, wow, the field just exploded. The 1950s gave us the humanistic approach, with thinkers like Maslow focusing on free will and personal growth. Then, the 1960s sparked the cognitive revolution, where the mind was studied like a complex computer. And by the 1980s, the biological approach took center stage, as new tech like MRI scans finally allowed us to peek inside the working brain itself. Which brings us to today. Psychology is no longer just one thing. It's a huge, diverse field that touches almost every aspect of our lives. Get this, 52. That's how many different divisions there are in the American Psychological Association alone. We're talking about everything from the psychology of athletes and media to how businesses are structured. The field is just incredibly broad and specialized now. Today, the dominant view is that you can't understand a person by looking at just one thing. It's about the bigger picture, the biopsychosocial model. Think about something like anxiety. Your biology, your genes or brain chemistry, might play a role. Your psychology, like a tendency to worry, is also key. And your social world, like a high-stress job, is the third piece of the puzzle. It takes all three to understand the full story. So, in the end, psychology isn't about having all the answers. It's really about providing the tools to ask better, more informed questions about the most complex and fascinating subject there is, ourselves. So, what's the first question you'd ask?